on that car, what you're going to add, what you're going to delete. It kind of starts there. So I went to the informational meeting that was held over to the Legion. I went there specifically to look at something. I've heard this talk about the $1,500 for residents. And I wanted to understand what the resident's going to get. So I went there and it said, well, there were going to be leases available. I wanted to look at the lease for this individual that's going to sign up, whatever, to understand what's in it, what the language is, so that as a board member I can make positive decisions for the community. Well, I was told they didn't have them, they were still working on it. The language. We were told a couple months back that in the next couple of weeks they'd be out going with these people, going to them to see about it. And that's puzzling to me because they tell us here tonight that, well, we don't know where these are going to go yet. Apparently somebody knows something because there's people they were going to go with these contracts. I asked to see the contracts for what the farmers have signed. Again, let's think about the window sticker. Where do you go with this? How do I make a good decision on things when that information isn't there to us? And that's what I see sad about this. We all take and grab things from here and there, but the real contract, folks, is what's signed.
Hush, hush.
Just the one issue about people we're contacting with contracts. I mean, we don't know what the layout is because it's not all figured out. But we do have some core areas where we're very confident it's going to end up with use of turbines in those sections. So in terms of going to people with this the small parcel lease, those are the people we'd be approaching first. The people that are in those core areas. As the layout gets more certain, we will extend it to around.
Will you share those with us?
That's me. Sure. What?
Whatever you're going to take and have those people sign.
And that's a contract with people that.
That's an individual contract that no one else has a right to see. He can show you a proposed contract, but I wouldn't want him showing you my contract.
I wasn't asking for that. I was asking for general.
Or any individual, but a proposed contract.
It's pretty typical wind energy.
See them every day.
I'd just like to address the accuracy of one of the statements I've heard that they don't know where the turbines are going. In Riga, they've been asking for that information for quite some time. However, developers have refused to provide such information, claiming that they don't know where they're going. Nonetheless, they have provided the exact latitude and longitude coordinates for 84 turbines to the FAA in order to get permits to site those turbines. I think it's extraordinarily disingenuous to sit here and tell everyone that they don't know where they're going to go, but they can tell the federal government where they're going to go. It's time that that information be shared with the people who are going to be forced to live with these turbines and not just the decision makers up high.
That's interesting.
If they're going to push natural gas, you want to remember they're going to take pipelines to move that natural gas. And we all know how the farmers like pipelines going through the farm.
Just like cables going through the farm.
They can still farm over it.
Mike Reed again. Pipeline 2 years ago, Britain Highway, it blew up. Kingdom Come, I drove over 20 minutes before it happened. And they say the infrastructure on the pipelines is getting ancient in some places. Think about that one.
Eric Jinks from WLP, Chief Engineer. I guess one concern I have is when looking at some of the ordinance, and this is more challenging, I guess, you as the board are going to have an ultimate say when some of the ordinances come, so it's a challenge to you as well as one I plan to share later at the later meeting. But when you look at a lot of the ordinances that have proposed a lot of things, sound, for instance, there's always a value type. Okay, we're debating 40, we're debating 45. The ordinance doesn't say the sound level is going to be low, because everyone's definition of low is different. So there has to be some measurable standard. Same thing with the setback. It doesn't say it's going to be adequate setbacks, because everyone debates what adequate means. That's why there has to be set standard. And I guess from a television standpoint, there are documented cases of interference. I don't know, I mean, there's articles that we submitted to Riga Township that's one of the key issues that another wind farm is dealing with right now. Our study shows a drastic effect to our signal because of the wind turbine. So what I would like to see is a measurable standard for RF interference. And there's more at stake than just, this gets into some more technical stuff, but a lot of the wind companies and different things that I've researched talk about not interfering with a microwave signal, which is a point-to-point communication. And there's more at stake than just a microwave signal, which is a point-to-point communication. There's radio waves all the way out there, and those need to be studied. They need to be studied ahead of time, because you can't just say it's not going to cause interference, or it's because that's what ordinance language says now. We will not cause interference to electromagnetic spectrum. The only way you can test that is to build them and then test it. And what are you supposed to do when you build it and test it? Like we said, you're not taking them down. They're not going to put the toothpaste back into the tube. So these are measurable standards that need to be put in place ahead of time that show that there is not going to be interference caused by the siting. And I remind you that although the township here is responsible for the windmills that are potentially being placed, there is effect to your neighbors as well, because the RF signals do pass through here. And so, and with the concept of being a good neighbor, you have to be concerned about those issues as well, because there's public safety not only of these residents, there are residents here that are, all you are going to be affected by the windmills around, but there's also people outside of this area that are going to be affected. And that's why I say a measurable standard needs to be in place.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
In these other wind farms, don't you think they have, I mean, I'm just asking this, the same situation they had to deal with when they built these wind farms?
There's, I don't know exactly the answer to that, and I don't know, because every situation is unique. And it's specifically in our situation, because of the proximity of the transmitter, our transmitter to these towers, it's like, it's the concept of, if you take a flashlight and you put a golf ball in front of the flashlight, the closer you move it to a flashlight, the more effect it's going to have. So for our signal, we're talking about a big impact. For other signals where the transmitter is not located this close, anything that's behind that golf ball is going to be affected, which is you guys, because of the proximity of the people in Toledo won't necessarily notice from channel 11, 24, 13, they won't notice the impact. You guys will for those stations. But the proximity of our transmitter, the height of the transmitter, that type of stuff with the proposed windmills is where the problem is.
I guess that's what my only question was, if there was that problem in other areas and how they dealt with it.
There,
Go ahead,
I would like to apologize to everyone in this room. I became a bit impassioned with my comments, and I liken it to when Jesus went into the temple and upset the tables because he was angry. I'm angry in a righteous way for you, because I really feel that these wind companies are trying, they are like wolves in sheep's clothing, and they are trying to upset this area. And it's not only just how it affects WLB, but all the other issues that are related to it. And I would encourage all of you to get on the internet and study these things for yourself and continue to make comments.
I had a question way in the back first, go ahead.
Two questions. One, Mr. Vanbush, you made the analogy about the car checking out the sticker. I think maybe you need to be a little more concerned from a board perspective, not what the leases are, but what the companies are proposing in tax payments to the township and the county. I would think that would be have more of a bearing to you. The other comment
Public
is,
health and welfare.
He's not done yet.
the other thing is, I guess I'm curious, we spent an awful lot of time on this thing, arguing back and forth, people are getting upset, and it's obvious to me that everybody's pretty much made their mind up one way or the other. I'm not sure why we're spending all this time. Why don't we bring this up for referendum? Vote on the dumb thing, vote it up or down and be done with it. This is ridiculous.
Right, Jim?
Well, if Jim and Phyllis signed the Great Lakes Wind lease, part of the lease is, let me see if I can remember this right, they cannot interfere with the permitting. So legally, they cannot vote against or anything strict against the wind siting of these turbines. If they did, then they would be in trouble with Mr. Doomering back there. And on the case of the what they've done in other townships, they have provided satellite dish to at least one person that I knew of. They paid for it a year. The second year, that gentleman had to take Great Lakes John Deere to court to get them to pay for their satellite dish.
Wait, excuse me, this guy here was first.
All I want to say is,
Please stand
oh,
up.
I'm sorry, my name's Ed Miller, Ogden Township resident. All I want to say is, look around already, they're not even here yet. Look what's going on with our townships already. Look at, you turn the neighbors into enemies just because the big corporate wind turbines, or they want to call them farms, they're not farms. It's an industrial park. So we're already turning on each other.
2 points. One in regards to the tax issue that I've already mentioned to you guys, Senate Bill 34 by Michigan Senator Mike Knopf, which is a bill that's in the Senate Finance Committee proposing the repeal of personal property tax that would eliminate the vast majority of tax being paid. I've been approached by some residents telling me, including Mr. Gates, that we don't know what's going to happen, that's never going to happen. Well, I think it would behoove all of you to know that Ohio has already done so. Governor Strickland last summer signed a bill into law exempting green energy initiatives from real and personal property tax. I'm not making this stuff up, it's real, it's there, and your tax incentives are going to be gone. Now on to the issue of board members with leases. It certainly puts them at a significant disadvantage because, as Mr. Benz noted, they're not allowed to take action that interferes with the siting of the turbines. However, by passing certain regulations, they limit the number of turbines that could be placed on a particular property. By passing regulations that are less lenient, they stand to have more turbines placed on their property, which increases their annual income. So they have a direct financial incentive in the outcome of this debate. They make more money with lower restrictions, they make less money with greater restrictions. That is a clear conflict of interest under Michigan law, and I'm going to ask you again, Mr. Gates and Ms. Gens, to recuse yourself from any further participation in this matter and to leave the room when it's being debated.
I have a question for
Hold on, let the record reflect that I have no response from Mr. Gates or Mr. Gens.
No comments.
I have a question for
Please stand.
Channel 40. I'm Libby from Ogden. Does that interference include cellular phones? And does it include satellite hookup?
Well, that would go to the question of the budget that is needed by the Citizens Action Committee to do studies of cellular. And another area I haven't even talked about, not only 11, 13, 24, 36, and 40, it can also include WADG out of Adrian, an AM signal. As you all know, when you go underneath a bridge, you lose your AM signal. Well, what do you think is going to happen when you're underneath a farm? So if you enjoy WJR, WABJ, and enjoy your local sports and stuff like that, do you think that's not going to be affected? I can tell you it's going to be affected, but you need a scientific study so that you can measure the impact. And then the wind companies have got to be able to mitigate around that, because these signals provide public safety. They provide emergency alert system, not only the general programming that you enjoy in your homes, whether it be WLB or other channels, but just any other channel. But also, another thing that hasn't been considered is licensed FCC licensed mobile radios for first responders, for fire departments. Any of those signals need to be studied as well in context of this farm, because you could have firefighters that need to put these things out after they blow up at the top. They need to be able to know that they need to call the local volunteer fire department so that they can come and provide public safety if they're allowed to go up. So to answer your question, every signal needs to have a study so that you can measure the impact and decide how much interference, how much less safety you want to have in each and every one of your homes in the township and the surrounding areas is acceptable. I would say, no, there shouldn't be any household that should have less public safety. It shouldn't be able to get their emergency alert system, that shouldn't be able to get their local news. When you grab your TV set and there is a hurricane going through this area, you grab a TV set and a radio, you go into your basement. Well, guess what? Those things are certainly in a hurricane going to be spinning around like crazy, and you're not going to be able to listen to your signals.
Just for the record, I can't get WADJ now half the time.
I'm sure there's other people that can.
Anyway, I think if the state would, for some reason, do away with this personal property tax on these turbines, they'll replace it with something. Some other kind of tax, and maybe it will involve turbines, maybe it won't. But I believe one company has already stated that they would have a process in place to replace that, if that should happen. Not sure about the other one yet. We're still, I think they're still debating